So I've been doing a lot of these Patreon horror crossover polls, and we've now moved on to our next one, which is Gravity Falls. And as you can see, the winner of that Patreon was Candyman. If you guys want to be part of the other polls that are currently going on, though it's very clear who the winners of those next two are, just hit the link in the description box below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the first tier, that'll allow you access to do so. But yeah, so here we go with Candyman Gravity Falls. So the story is set after the series, and this actually centers around Stan and Ford. But before that, before we get into our main story, let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning of all this, where Stan and Ford are 10 years old, and they're basically at home playing a game. And Stan's just kind of you say it. No, you say it. And they're both trying to you're a coward. No, you're a coward. Come on, you say it. So eventually, Stan is fine, I'll do it. So Stanley gets in front of the mirror, the bathroom mirror, and it starts going, Candyman, Candyman, Candy. And right before he gets to the fifth time, his dad comes busting in and is like, what are you two doing? Belt in hand. And he's like, you don't use that, you don't say that name. You don't play that stupid game. And they're like, but Dad, it's just it's not real. We're just having a little fun. And he's like, well, how about a belt for fun? So they never play with that game again because they never play that game ever again because their dad was very adamant. If you say that name ever again, you're gonna get a belt. You're gonna get a belt. So we fast forward to present day, and Stan and Ford are actually in Chicago, and they've recently been investigating together the sightings of the Chicago Mothman, and they're just at a hot dog stand. They're just at a little hot dog stand, and Stan at the stand is talking to Ford, and he's just eating the dog, and he's just like, I gotta tell you, bro. I do not care for Chicago dogs. These Midwestern dogs are just the worst. I would give nothing more than to go back to New York and actually eat a proper New York hot dog, because this is not good. But Ford is well, we don't really have any investigation unless you want to go through the New York sewers looking for gators. He's like, those are real, aren't they? He's like, oh yeah, they're very real. I mean, we could stop in New York, maybe, see the old house and maybe, I don't know, take a look. And he's like, no, I don't want to go down memory lane right now, Ford. So, but as they're talking, they hear in the restaurant, they overhear a TV talking about another brutal murder that has occurred in what once was Cabrini Green. Because remember, in real life and in the 2021 movie, Cabrini Green is gone. It got torn down and made into new apartment complexes. But there's been a horrible, brutal murder, making it the third in the span of 2 weeks. However, the police say they haven't found a killer, but it matches the description of what happened before, of it looks like the victims were these young kids who were basically at a sleepover. They're all connected like a sleepover, and now the third one is found brutally murdered by what looks like deep lacerations from their groin to the gullet. So that gets Ford's attention, and Stan's just like, I thought we were here for Mothman, not for a serial killer. Come on, let's do something. Let's not. We're not cops, Ford. And he's like, no. This sounds really like something familiar to to us. At least you. It should be familiar to you and me. But it just feels like something we should look into. And Stan is still like, no. We're not doing this. We're not going to do the whole. We're not going to go and be cops. We're not cops. He's like, Stan, I don't think this is a normal serial killer. Let's just go to those buildings. So they go walk. So begrudgingly, Stan agrees, and the two head out. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. They both head out, and essentially they go to these apartment complexes, start asking around. And they're like, are you cops or something? He's like, no. We're just, and like Stan butts in and he goes, we're private investigators. We got hired by one of the families to look around. And they're like, okay. So they ask around and like, yeah, it was another kid who was at a sleepover who were playing. Like, from what I understand is like the kids were screwing around and playing a game. And they're like, what game were they playing? And the guy basically goes, way I hear it is that they were playing some game where they had to talk into a mirror 5 times. And Ford's immediately like, what name were they saying? He's like, well, it ain't Bloody Mary, I can tell you that. It was something about Candy something. I don't know. He's like, Stan, we need to go. And Ford's like, Stan, we need to go. And Stan's like, why? What are we doing? He's like, we should not be here. Like I made a horrible mistake. We should not be here because this is not going to end well. And he's like, and Stan immediately gets this like, hey, I remember. Like, hey, didn't we do something like as kids doing that? He's like, yeah, that's why we shouldn't be here. We need to leave like right now. Because I don't think we should be here, Stan. I made a mistake. And that's when they hear a scream from another room. They both run in. They're hearing like screams like, oh my God, he's coming through the window. He's coming through the mirror. Stan breaks down the door. Him and Ford come charging in and see like just a mess of this poor girl who looks just absolutely brutalized. And Stan's like, don't touch anything. This is don't leave your fingerprints on anything. If Life on the Run has taught me anything, don't touch her. Don't move anything. Just call the cops. So Ford calls the cops, and they actually get pulled into questioning. And Stan has to be like really cool because he still has warrants out for him. Even at the show's end, he still has multiple warrants out for his arrest. So Stan and Ford basically explain, like, hey, we were concerned citizens. We heard screaming, and now the poor girl's dead. Like, what's going on? And they're like, less you know, the better. But Ford has already got something, and Stan's like, all right, bro, you and me are gonna have a little talk. So as they're heading out of the police station, they're like, all right, they're just sitting on a park bench, and Stan's just like, all right, you're gonna tell me what is it? Like, 'cause you clearly know something. And he's like, I think I know what's causing this. And you're right, it does play back into that game we used to play as kids. Do you remember? Do you know why that game Candyman is being? We used to do. People would try to do that, and he's like, yeah. He's like, well, there's an actual story to it, and it happens to be of what was Cabrini Green. There was a painter named Daniel Robitaille, and he was a painter who fell in love with a plantation owner's daughter. They had a child. The father found out, and Robitaille was lynched. He's like, damn, what's that got to do? And he's like, and Ford's like, there's more, because it ties to us. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, Stan, I think I know why our dad never really wanted us to talk about, play that game. It wasn't just because it was dumb. It's because we have ties to it. I did a lot of digging, and I never wanted to tell you because this is something I don't even think I don't even think Dipper and Mabel should know about this. Our ancestor was the one who led the lynching of Daniel Robitaille. Our ancestor, our great great grandfather, was the Grand Dragon of the clan in this area. And Stan is just like, you are shitting me. What? How do we not know? He's like, yeah, it's a black mark on the Pines family. Like, Dad obviously knew and didn't want to talk about it. And playing that game probably reminded him of our hand in Robitaille's lynching. And we need to leave. Because if it's anything, there's more to that story, that Robitaille's spirit became this entity, this angry entity. And if he knows we're here, if there's anything to go on, he's probably and if he figures out if Robitaille's spirit has become this vengeful entity that has reached out, and Ford goes in the whole thing of like, it's not just Robitaille. He became Robitaille's soul became immorphized into something else. Like like the last time there were killings here was 2021. There was a mass amount of there was another person who became obsessed with the Candyman mythology and became something else. This being takes on the identity of those horribly wronged. And I'm pretty sure Robitaille is going to be like pretty pissed if he finds out we're here. So Stan's like, yeah, I never liked Chicago anyway. Let's go. And so they get into their car that they've rented, and he's just like, I never liked Chi-Town to begin with. You hear that? He like sticks his head out. He's like, you hear that? The Bears suck. He starts the car, but as he's like looking in the rearview mirror, he sees like an image of Robitaille, and he's just like, go, shit. Nothing there. And he's like, I don't think we should be in the car. And that's when like a hook comes through at the side and almost gets Stan in the shoulder. He barely misses. They get out of the car, and they're like, oh crap. But we didn't say the name 5 times, and it's like, I don't think it matters, Stan. I think he figured out who we are. So they're already taking off into the city, and they're just like, well, what are we gonna do? Like, we can just leave the city, right? And he's like, that's not gonna matter, Stan. Like, Ford's like, that's not gonna matter. No matter where we go, he's gonna he's connected to us. There's been like Candyman slayings in not just Chicago, but New Orleans, LA. We cannot go anywhere, and we cannot bring this back if we go back to Gravity Falls, we cannot bring this back with us, because this thing will kill Dipper and Mabel. So if you want to keep our grandniece and nephew alive, we need to deal with it now. So Stan's like, all right, what do we do? So Ford basically is like, the first thing we need to do is do some digging at the local library. And he's like, crap, reading. He's like, we need to find. There's something we need to find to like put away the Robitaille spirit, or at least give it some closure. So they go to the library, and they're trying. Ford hasn't really explained what exactly they're looking for, and he's like trying desperately to dig for it. But Stan doesn't really know what the whole point is about the whole thing. However, Ford eventually explains that there was a woman back in the 90s, Helen Lyle, who became obsessed with the Candyman mythos and allegedly killed several people, claiming Candyman was behind it. But when she died, saving a young child, who incidentally was also targeted in this whole thing, she basically burned to death. But she was buried with the hook, with Robitaille's hook hand. I believe if we find that and put it to rest, maybe we can put him to rest too. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna hit the can real quick. So Stan goes to the bathroom, and he immediately looks at all the mirrors, and he's like, crap. Hey, I just want to let you. He's like talking into the bathroom. He's like, I just want to let you know, what our great great grandfather did to you. Not our fault. We are a totally loving, all inclusive, diverse. Whatchamacallit. I just need to piss. If you're gonna kill me, at least don't kill me in the back. Like, hook me in the back while I'm taking a pee. So Stan's like peeing, and he's just like looking around. He's like, come on, the one time you have a solid stream. And he's like, all right, I'm done. And immediately turns around, there's Candyman. And he's like, oh god. He like dodges the hook. He just starts bolting out. And he's like, he comes running out into the library. He's like, Ford, we gotta go. Shush yourself, bitch. So he grabs Ford. He's like, did you find this Helen Lyle's grave? And he goes, yeah, I think I did. So he's like, good. I'm gonna go steal some shovels, and we're gonna start digging. So eventually they do find Helen's grave, and he's like, I don't feel right defiling a poor woman's grave, but if it means protecting our family, then I'll do it. And he's like, I defile stuff all the time. I have not yet begun to defile anything that I can't. So they start digging, and they eventually find the hook. And he's like, "All right, so do you have like blessed rites or something or some dumb crap we got to do to make this work?" And Ford's like, "I don't know. I didn't think we'd get this far. I thought I don't know. Like I'm not a priest. We need like somewhere to like holy ground to put it to rest. Like we need to find where Robitaille was lynched back at the apartment complex and bury him there." And then they start hearing buzzing, and he's like, "Hey, Ford, you ain't allergic to bees, are you?" "Not to my knowledge. Are you?" "No." "There's a lot of bees coming, though." So they just see this swarm of bees coming in, and they immediately just take off again. And among the bees, like they see Candyman like form himself, and he's like, "Long have I waited for the blood of the Pines family to grace my hook." And Stan's just like, "You're gonna have to wait a little longer, pal, because I'm not looking to get my groin hooked. All right, that's not a kink I want to do." So they run back to what was the apartment complexes that were once Caprini Green, and during all this, they're like they're avoiding mirrors. They're like seeing Candyman getting closer and closer and trying to like swipe at them. But eventually, they do find like Ford believes he's found where Robitaille's body was, and it's just like this skeletal remain. And Ford puts the hook in. He's like, "Ash to ashes, dust to dust. Look out, heaven! Here he comes." And and Ford's like, "That's not gonna work." It's immediately the Candyman entity fades away into a thing of bees, and he's like, "Oh my god, that worked." He's like, "How did you know that was gonna work, Stan?" He's like, there was I did some undercover stuff in Venezuela, and I had to pose as a priest. I had to get blessed and all that crap. So yeah, by the end of it, Stan and Ford get leave that, and they're also like, I hope he does find, because as evil, as dark as the spirit is, it didn't deserve that kind of punishment that our family had a hand in. So hopefully he finds peace in another life, in the afterlife. And he's like, "You sure he's going to be gone though?" And sure, as they're driving away, Stan like pulls the rearview mirror down and starts saying the name up to 4 times, and he's like, Ford looks at him. He's like, "You're right, not tempting it." And they drive off. So there you go, guys. That is the Gravity Falls Candyman story. I want to thank everyone who voted on this, and let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. See you next time in the Multiverse.